What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, your home for the 2020 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Also, Greg, your home for the 2020 NLDS over the Giants champions, whatever winners. They beat the Giants in Game 5, 2-1. I'm joined by Greg Bergman of the Mason and Ireland Show. Greg, just give me quickly, how are we feeling?
I am feeling fantastic. I'm going to say, though, that was not a check swing. I'll take it. I'll be happy, or it was a check swing. That he did not swing is what I'm trying to say here. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. I was never as nervous in a long time as I had been when that Lamont Wade Jr. at bat. I really thought late night Wade was going to do something big there. Whew, it was close. How you feeling, man?
I'm going to be honest. Can I confess something? Part of I'm even more excited that they lost on a terrible call. Like, there's something sick about me that the fact that this is how it ends, and there's the poetic justice for the Darren Ruff check swing, whatever. The fact that I just wanted it over, and the fact that, like, Giant fans are going to be grumbling about this, there's just something about that, and I probably need to deal with something inside of me. But, I mean, I can't think of – I have a terrible memory, precursor to all this. I can't think of a more exciting Dodgers game, like a more stressful, exciting. They go up by 1, they immediately give it back. Every out has, like, just every ounce of drama possible. Max Scherzer on the mound to close it out. Cody Bellinger, the GOAT of the entire season, coming up with the clutch hit. Like, I can't get over how ridiculous this game was. I was losing my mind. I couldn't believe it once we got to the point, like, oh my gosh, Cody Bellinger's up. He gets the hit. Oh my gosh, Max Scherzer is going to come in. Then we have the Chris Taylor bunt. Then we have the Matt Beatty can't do anything. Then you have Scherzer coming in. Then you have the Justin Turner error. Then you have the Scherzer check swing. I mean, there's like 100 things that went on in the last 30 minutes. And as we started turning this on, I was shaking. I was absolutely shaking.
That's why it took a little bit for us to get on, right? Because you were shaking
exactly.
So much. But, I mean, like the World Series last year, maybe, like just the intensity of the World Series. But for the most part, no, all of the things that you laid out, those were all crazy. And like, I'm with you. I mean, this is what it was. Maybe it was a check swing and he didn't actually go through, but it's one of those. I mean, I feel bad. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't.
Slightly.
Not
honest. At all. No, there's nothing there. No, look, the Giants lost. That's all that matters.
Totally.
And you're going and you beat the Giants in the playoffs to move on to the NLCS to face the Atlanta Braves. I am ecstatic. It was an intense game all the way through, though.
And I think when I say most exciting, my dislike of the San Francisco Giants is so immense. Like, I actually got to a point in this game, and I'll get over this tomorrow, where I was like, you know what? If someone told me right now, Jeff, I will guarantee you a victory in this game, but you will lose in the NLCS, or you could just play this one out and see whatever happened. Like, I would have been like, you know what? I hate the Giants. Like, if I have to go to work tomorrow with my friends who are Giant fans and, like, look at them and they're going to make stupid comments. So, again, that's a stupid thing. I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say it. I'm going to get over it tomorrow. I'm just saying my dislike of the San Francisco Giants. Robert in the chat, I'm so freaking happy. Like, no mo FOMO. I don't feel bad. Laura, I don't feel bad. You know, it's like, I'm with you. These are my people. This is who I agree with. So, Greg is here. We're going to break all of this down. We're going to talk players of the game. We probably won't get much to talk about as far as the NLCS. We have plenty of time to talk about that. This is all about this game. It's about the decisions that Dave Roberts made in the first inning, in the second inning, the Julio Urias move, the move to go to Trinan and not double switch, the move to go to Jansen in the 8th, the move to go to Scherzer in the 9th, the move to bunt Chris Taylor. We got loads and loads to talk about. But first, folks, in the chat, how are you feeling? We've got the check swing or not check swing that ends this. You're going to be hearing about it forever. None of us will care because we won.
Nope.
None of us will care because we won. But in the chat, folks joining us on YouTube, folks joining us on Facebook, folks joining us on Twitter, please, please, please tell me how you're feeling. Smallville Freak 616. I thrive on the booze of Giants fans.
It does feel good inside, doesn't it? Just a little bit being like, oh, just the Giant fans not being happy through all this is pretty amazing all the way around.
Todd Riccatelli, second coming of Cody Bellinger. Yes, I mean, like, I tweeted before that, and again, we'll get into this. This guy, like, he has been terrible. We don't need to undersell how bad he has been all season. He has
understatement on his own.
3 go-ahead hits in winner-take-all games in his career. He has the biggest hit in Game 7 of the NLCS last year. He had one in Game, was it 5 of the NLDS back in 2017?
Yeah, I think that was the home run there. Yeah.
And then this one. And I mean, like, this one probably the most unlikely of them all. A huge moment. So there we go. Philip, I'm glad I can rep LA to my San Francisco coworkers. Let's go. Fernando, who cares? THP Knob, Karma, Mark Sang-Hoon Kim, feeling hashtag repeat LA. Santiago, we won, all caps, lots of N's at the end of we won. Christian, beautiful and stressful game. I love this team. Brian Fouts, Dodgers would have won anyways. Dude was 0 for life against Max, but the check swing is so much tastier because it stings like hell. I mean, look, I wish I didn't agree with you, but I absolutely, everything within me agrees with you. I went to wake my wife up, and she's like looking at me scared because she's like, why is somebody waking me up? And I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is amazing.
You have to watch this. You have to watch what's going on right now.
Totally.
Yeah, but going back to Cody Bellinger for just a second, everybody, there wasn't one person that I can think of that said Cody Bellinger should be in every single game.
Yeah.
It got to the point when I was on Mason Island and we were saying that Cody Bellinger is nothing more than a defensive replacement at the end of games.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And for him to come through in this series and just get hits, just singles, he shortened up. You could actually see him actually move up on the bat. He was choking up, which is a huge thing for him because he had that real long swing. So for him to choke up and just push a ball through the shift, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. JV says, I'm with you, Jeff. Don't know if I could have handled the late night Lamont Wade walk-off to have thrown out there for the rest of our lives.
No, man. So. No, I was nervous. That was the most nervous in the game, period, was when Lamont Wade Jr. was up.
I had my brother texting me saying he wanted Alex Vesia in for the 9th simply because Lamont Wade would not have pinch hit in that situation. He's like, I don't care who else we have to face, just not Lamont Wade.
Right.
Let's see. We own the West. Valerie Roach. That's true. Still true. Absolutely. Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter. They got a check swing call to win the division. We got a check swing call to win the NLDS. I'll take it. Yeah,
I'd rather have the DS than the division. Congratulations. You took one from us.
Yep. Lauren Yamaguchi, Dave Roberts, all caps. We're going to get to him. Santiago, props to Dave Roberts. Yeah, absolutely. Nomo Fomo. This felt like the World Series. I mean, I agree with you. Look, if we beat the Braves, this will still somehow feel way more satisfying than winning the NLCS. It won't probably trump a World Series, but it will trump any series other than that. Laura, yes, I owe Cody Bellinger an apology. I think we all do.
We all do. Yeah, we all do. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sorry, Cody.
Exactly. There we go. Salvador says, do we believe in Belly now? Greg, do we believe in Bellinger?
I have more faith in him now because of what we were talking about with he was choking up and he's getting singles. He's not swinging for the fences on every at bat. So faith is a tough word to use, but I can trust him just a little bit more. Yeah. All right. What about you? Can you trust him now?
It was impressive the way that it happened, I think, for him to go down 2 strikes, because that was the situation that you're terrified. And even the at bat before, Webb kept throwing him breaking balls down and in, down and in, down and in, down and in. He's fighting it off. He does end up striking out in that bat. But for him to come back, foul off a couple, get down to 2 strikes, and then still put that ball into right center field. I mean, because the other piece of that will be forgotten is that Justin Turner was on second base. So it wasn't just any single that was scoring Justin Turner from second base. So Cody places it into the gap, moves the guy to third as well. So, look, he's been really, really good of late, which I think is the key part to all of this. This isn't just like one at bat. That's sort of a fluke. If you look at his game log of late, he goes 1 for 4 tonight. He was 2 for 4 last night, 1 for 4 with the 2-run double the night before, 0 for 3, and then 1 for 2 with 2 walks in the game against St. Louis. So if you look at his postseason, he's now 5 for 17, which is like not amazing, but 3 RBIs, 2 walks.
Great. Fine with that.
We said, Daniel and I have been saying, if we could get 1 for 4, and the one could be a walk. We could do an on-base percentage of 250, a slug of 250. If he's getting on base 1 out of every 4 times, we will take it. This is way better than that. This is a borderline 300 hitter. Now, look, small sample size, okay? 5 games. Nobody's proclaiming anything. He was 1 for 2 in the last game of the regular season as well, so you could stretch it back a little bit more, and he's 6 for his last 19. Again, over 300. So, yes, the strikeouts are still there. 8 strikeouts over that stretch, but Look, I have been the guy that every time Dave Roberts says, oh, no, the at-bat quality is getting there. That we're seeing. This is the first time where I agree with him. And yes, he's falling down 2 strikes. Yes, he's striking out a little bit more than I would like, but he's fighting pitches off. He's choking up on the bat. He puts that ball into right center field, and it was an unbelievable piece of hitting.
Yeah, and what Bellinger did against, you were talking about that Logan Webb at bat where he eventually struck out. He still went, I think, 8 pitches in that at bat. And so what that did was it pushed up his pitch count. Actually, the bottom of the lineup, actually from Gavin Lux down to Chris Taylor, they had good at bats all the way through where they were making Logan Webb work. So he couldn't even get to the 8th inning because he got into the 8th inning in game 1. So the at bat quality has been much better. And you were talking about Justin Turner being on second base. Justin Turner can't hit, and he hasn't for a while. I think he's 1 for his last 20 or something along those lines. And that he got hit. That was the only reason he got on base.
A
He
gift.
got hit.
A gift.
Yeah, it was a gift. It was Doval hitting him.
Yeah.
And that's got him on first, and he eventually go to second. And again, like you said, he's not the most fleet of foot, but he was able to get home because of how it was placed by Bellinger. So it just all kind of worked itself out how it was supposed to.
Yeah, the Turner 1-out hit by pitch is going to be the moment. I mean, that easily should have been with Doval on the mound. It should have been Doval on the mound. It should have been 2 outs, nobody on. Instead, there's 1 out hit by pitch. Gavin Lux, 1-2 count. He singles. Or excuse me, not a 1-2 count. He singles to put runners on first and second. And then I believe he did have 2 strikes on him actually at the time. And then Bellinger, a 1-2 single into right field to put them up. And then again, we'll get to the Taylor bunt. We'll get to the Beatty ground out. We'll get to the Scherzer decision. But unbelievable stuff for here.
I've got the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a note here, by the way, that from Taylor Negan, Max Scherzer is once again shirtless on the field. So we're gonna have some great post-game content. I've heard some Cody Bellinger quotes that I can neither confirm nor deny, and
boy.
I'm sort of worried and hoping that some of these aren't true. I'll put them that way. So we'll see. If they are true, let's just say they'll be all over Twitter. And he can't blame being drunk like Walker Buehler could for his tweets. So look, yeah, that's another thing. If somebody in the chat can keep an eye out for any Walker Buehler tweets while we're going live here, we would much appreciate that because there we go. So let's break this one down. I mean, just a bizarre game going back all the way to the beginning. Logan Webb for the Giants. Corey Knebel for the Dodgers. Corey Knebel, obviously Mookie Betts. The Dodgers don't do anything in the first. We'll just leave it at that. Trey Turner hits the easiest double play ball in the history after Mookie with a leadoff single. You think, hey, leadoff single, Logan Webb, we're going to get some things going. Corey Seager hits the ball 106 miles an hour right at an outfielder. And then Trey Turner, the tailor-made double play ball. Knebel comes in, 2 quick outs. Okay, we're feeling good. Then a 2-out double by Posey. Couple hard hit balls off of him, some balls to the warning track. Darren Ruff almost got his first home run, but didn't. He strikes out Crawford on a nasty curveball. So we're good there. Then we get to the second. Dodgers 1-2-3. Logan Webb is settling in. If you're not named Mookie Betts, you did not like seeing Logan Webb on the mound tonight. But the bottom of the second, we get Brusdar Graterol in. Now, this was kind of what we expected. We thought the first 2 innings were going to be bullpen. And my expectation was that Graterol would be the other guy. You know it'd be a righty, so it was going to be Graterol or Bickford. They probably didn't want to go to Bickford at any point tonight, so they go to Graterol. Infield single for Bryant. Bat shatters over Justin Turner's head. Flores 1-out single, a 68-mile-an-hour blooper. I think they had 2 exit velocities under 7 to put runners on, but he gets Longoria to foul out and Webb to strike out. Graterol survives the second inning. Surprise, surprise, offense 1-2-3 for themselves in the top of the third. Bottom of the third, Julio Urias shows up, quick 9-pitch inning, 1-2-3. He's in and out. Top of the fourth, Mookie Betts, another leadoff single. Seager grounds to the pitcher. Trey grounds to the pitcher. Smith walks, and then Justin Turner with runners on first and second. He grounds back to the pitcher. Through the fourth, which more of like the Giants just continuously putting runners in scoring position. The fourth was the 3rd time they put a runner in scoring position and did not score. So Urias gets out of it with runners at first and third on a Flores pop out. 5th inning, 1-2-3 for the Dodgers. Bottom of the 5th, 1-2-3 for the Giants. That was the cleanest inning Urias got. Mookie Betts in the top of the 6th. You're not going to believe this, Greg. A leadoff single for Mookie Betts.
Shocking.
He steals second base. Corey Seager doubles him home. So now you've got a runner on second. You're up 1-0, feeling great, but you got a runner on second with the heart of your lineup up. No dice. Trey Turner, another strikeout. Will Smith, a long flyout. Dodgers can't capitalize. First batter, Julio faces. I tweet, but middle of the order coming up. This is the biggest moment for Urias. Darren Ruff hits a ball, absolutely demolishes to center field.
Destroyed it.
Urias gets out of the inning, and that's that. So at this point, the Dodgers go up 1-0. Let's pause here in the 6th. The Giants immediately tie it up. What would you say, like, where were you at? Were you feeling good about things right there, or is the fact that they had a lead and blew it have you worried about the nightmare that might be coming?
So I still felt pretty good about it. I still thought that the Dodgers were going to just had to get through Logan Webb. It was always just get to the bullpen, just get to the bullpen, just get to the bullpen. And despite the Darren Ruff home run, that was really most of the hard hit balls. We're still seeing the same thing that that the Giants were doing since game 1. Games 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all pretty much the same thing. They had one big home run in game 3 and one big home run in game 5. I was still feeling good, thinking like they're just not hitting. And it's not coming around. I don't think they have what it takes to get through it, especially with you have Urias, who's now is just pushing at this point. And then you still have your big guns coming out of the bullpen. So, I mean, whether I agreed with some of the moves that ended up coming out, it all worked out. But at this point, I'm feeling good.
Yeah. Dodgers come back out in the
Scared.
7th. Yeah, exactly.
Scared.
And I
But good.
tweeted, I said, hey, the longer this goes, the better you feel as a Dodgers fan, because once you get to bullpens, Doval is literally the only guy in the Giants pen that I'm worried about. The ironic part being he's the guy that actually gives up the run. But I knew the Dodgers, I knew who they had. We had Trinan, we had Jansen, we had Kelly, we had Scherzer, who I wouldn't have included in that list before the game, but I'll include him in that list now. So Webb comes back out, another 1-2-3 inning for him, but the Dodgers do get him over 100 pitches. We know he's due. This was a big moment in the game because then Blake Trinan comes in for Julio Urias. At this point, Urias had 59 pitches. He had allowed just 3 hard hit balls. He had allowed 3 base runners in 4 innings, no walks, 5 strikeouts. You and I went back and forth a little bit on Twitter on this one, and I think we were both in agreement. Bottom of the order due up, bottom of the 7th. They decide to pull Urias at that point. What were you thinking in that moment? Did you agree with the decision at the time?
I hated the decision. I thought that Urias you said he had 59 pitches at that point.
59.
I know his pitch count was low. The whole point of this entire thing that they were doing with the opener and then the second opener and then Urias was for him to get 15 outs.
Yeah.
He was at 12 outs. He made it through to that point, and then he found the bottom of the lineup coming up. At this point, especially with he was due up second in the next inning.
Correct.
So if you go with Urias there, you can get and if he gets through the bottom of the lineup, then you can go Trinan in the 8th and Jansen in the 9th.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about burning anybody, and you don't have to worry about burning a pitcher. And instead, they took him out. I don't know if he was slowing or if they saw something out of him. I don't know what Dave said. I'm sure he'll be talking about it post-game, but I did not like the move. Again, it worked out, so obviously I'm wrong, but I would not have done it because now you have Trinan, and Trinan got through it pretty simply, and he could have gone another inning. So I didn't see what the reasoning behind all of it was, but it worked out.
Yeah, folks in the chat kind of agreeing with you, thought that Urias deserved a little bit more space there. Here's the best, Brudog's the one, pulling Urias didn't make sense to me. Here's the best argument that I could make is that the thing I appreciated it, if I want to try and justify, if I want to be a defender of this move, was basically what the Dodgers did is we're not taking any chances. We recognize that it's the bottom of the lineup. We recognize that Urias still could have it. But what we're looking at is we are not going to take any chances. We are just going to keep this a tie game and just trust that at some point our bats are going to get a run. And so if it means trying in here, then we go and get those 3 outs, and we don't worry about who's up. We don't worry about any of that. We just go get the 3 outs. Now, with that said, the issue that I had was that you're bringing Trinan in, knowing you need to get 9 outs. Why would you not double switch there? Like, we know Lux in center field is not a plus defender out there. I mean, he made no mistakes, didn't have any tough plays to make. Chris Taylor made a great play in left field in the 9th on a ball that was hit hard, kind of right at him, but tricky. So for me, I don't understand why you don't double switch there. Pollock's going to hit in that spot anyways, which he ends up doing. Put him in left, put Chris Taylor in center, and that way, if Trinan has a quick inning, which by the way he does, then you can bring him back out and not have to worry about pinch hitting for him. So that was the only issue I had, because I said, hey, you know what? Go get the outs. Like, don't risk it, because I think it would have been a small gamble, but a gamble to say Urias 59 pitches, weird situation. You know, he had just given up the home run to Ruff. He hadn't been missing a ton of bats with his stuff. I'd have to go back and look at his swing percentage, but the whiff percentage, it wasn't great. So that would be my justification, but my issue with the decision was not the double switch, because if you double switch, you just keep your options open. But I mean, and the funny thing is they end up pulling Gavin Lux out at the end of the game anyways. They put Cody into center field and put Billy McKinney at first. So like if you're thinking about doing that at some point anyways, then even more reason to throw AJ Pollock in left field for 2 innings and then figure it out from there.
So the only thing that I would kind of push back a little bit on with that is that, and look, I agree with you. Let me just be completely straight up that I agree with you. They should have double switched there, and it probably would have been Gavin Lux. I think the reason that they didn't double switch with Gavin Lux is because they knew that they were going to get to Doval at some point, and they were going to have Gavin Lux wanted to face Doval because he blasted a ball that almost went out of the park in Game 3 and would have tied the whole thing up. So you wanted to have his bat against Doval because he was going to use his power against him. Now Doval came in, to his credit, and was not throwing gas. He wasn't throwing 100 miles. He was throwing his secondary pitches so that he was keeping him off balance. So that was, I think, the reason for that. But I still overall agree with you, especially at the time. But this is also why you and I are not in the Dodgers front office.
It's why we're here celebrating.
We think we should be.
Yes.
We should be, yes. But we think in our brains we should be, but they always are one step ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Trinan comes in. He does what he's supposed to do, gets a 1-2-3 rating. Rogers comes in for the Giants. Pollock does pinch hit in the 2nd, whole of that next inning. And Pollock with a 1-out infield single. Mookie with another single. 4-for-4 performance from Mookie Betts. We're going to get to
And a stolen
MVPs
base.
in a little bit. And yeah, unbelievable. Seager strikes out with runners in first and second. Doval comes in first pitch. Trey Turner, dreadful game for him offensively. He flies out. Jansen comes in for the bottom of the 8th. And I know right away. Jansen, it's like you can watch his cutter, and if guys aren't swinging and missing through it, it's usually a problem. First one,
Right.
fouled. The first one was low velocity and fouled off. The second one was pulled like pretty hard foul.
Sharply.
And so I was worried at that point, but I was amazed. I tweeted this. I said, this is the difference between 2021 Kenley Jansen and every other version of Kenley we've ever seen. His breaking ball is filthy, and he's not afraid to go to it. He knew he didn't have his A-plus cutter, and so he knew that cutter was only going to get swings and misses if people weren't expecting it. So he throws breaking ball after breaking ball after breaking ball. He gets Solano, he gets Ruff, and he gets Posey, which, let's be honest, those are like the 3 best hitters in the lineup. Ruff and Posey, at least, are the 2 biggest, most scary guys in the lineup. Jansen flies through him. I know Daniel tweeted, hey, the Posey versus Jansen at bat in this matchup with those 2 guys, what they do to their franchises, was a huge moment. And so for all the flack that Jansen has gotten, in that moment, he was huge.
Yeah, no, Jansen was, I have to say, I tweeted this out too, is that he's been otherworldly in this playoffs. He's striking guys out. He's getting swings and misses. He's getting backwards Ks. He's getting all of it. This is not the Jansen that I've seen. And it wasn't even the Jansen that we saw in the middle of the season this year, where we were still a little bit worried about him. He has been by far the best reliever that the Dodgers have, and I trust him more. I never thought I would say this, not over the last 5 years, that he is the most trusted reliever that the Dodgers have right now. And when they go to him, I would have been okay with, if they didn't pitch hit for him in the top of the 9th. I would have been okay with him going in the bottom of the 9th still, because he was pitching that well.
I had somebody in my text saying they hoped Chris Taylor hit a sacrifice fly so that the pitcher spot came up with 2 outs and a runner on first, so you could justify just letting Kenley hit and keeping him in the game. We don't get there, because that brings us to the top of the 9th, the moment of the game. Justin Turner, 1 out. He's up at the plate. He takes 100-mile-an-hour fastball, 99-mile-an-hour fastball right off the elbow guard. Perfect place to hit him. Perfect guy to hit. He goes to first. Gavin Lux, he singles. Cody Bellinger, the biggest at-bat of the game. Runners at first and second. He's on a 1-2 count. He singles into right center field into a perfect spot where Justin Turner scores easily. Gavin Lux goes to third. At that point, Doval is removed. Gossman comes in. This was the next biggest moment of the game. Chris Taylor due up. So I have a controversial opinion here, Greg, and I'm going to share it.
Oh, no.
I don't hate the decision. I don't hate the decision to bunt.
What are you talking about? Are you serious?
Of it. I hate the execution of it. I hate the execution.
Bunting is hard, Jeff.
That's true. The thing is like, I'll say this: if there's anybody on the roster that were like, hey, somebody needs to lay down a bunt, and it can't be a pitcher, who would you pick? I think Chris Taylor would be the guy that I would pick. I just feel like he's done it. I've seen him bunt effectively, and there's a lot of reasons they stay out of the double play. I'm not saying that, like, I should say this. I don't hate it. Let me rephrase. I don't hate the decision. I'm not advocating for it, but I just don't hate it. I think we're going to remember it because of how bad the execution was. The truth is, we're all going to forget about it because they won and it becomes irrelevant in history. But I didn't hate it. Am I crazy for that?
Yes, I'm not going to lie to you. You're absolutely crazy for it, because this is why. Chris Taylor had been smacking balls. He wasn't getting them. He maybe wasn't hitting home runs, but he was getting them deep into the outfield. It was 1 out and a runner on third. A sac fly gives you a little bit of extra cushion. Yeah. It gives you It gives you 3 runs instead of the 2, and especially going into the next inning. So no, the bunt, no matter what, even if it was a safety squeeze and not a suicide squeeze, which, as you know, safety squeeze is just to basically get the guy over at first base and get Bellinger over to second. And if you can bring who was it? Who was at third? Turner. Gavin, if you can get Gavin Lux home, great. But for the most part, it wasn't a suicide squeeze. He was just trying to be safe about it. And it was not okay. Hopefully get the first base. He was hitting the ball well. He was getting bat on ball. He was putting it into the outfield. You're gonna get the sac fly most likely out of it, especially because he can hit Gausman in the past. I didn't like it, but I didn't like a lot of these moves today. Yeah. I didn't like moves in the beginning of the game. I didn't like moves at the end of the game. I didn't like that bunt call. And I was wrong.
And to his credit, Kapler saw the whole thing coming, had his first baseman charging off of the bag. As the announcers pointed out, Taylor could have easily pulled the bat back, and Bellinger would have taken second easily because of how the first baseman was playing. So again, I understood, like, just sort of, it felt like a catch catch them by surprise kind of moment. Taylor is the guy that
didn't
didn't catch them by surprise. And Taylor's the guy that I would most trust to bunt, and he lays down a terrible bunt. So anyways, to be clear, everybody on YouTube agrees with you and hates my opinion here. So we're fair. We're fair on that one. The ironic part of all this is Bellinger gets handed second base in the next at bat in a free stolen base. Matt Beatty comes up and he grounds out with runners at second and third, which means it's the moment that everybody's looking forward to. Max Scherzer. When I say everybody's looking forward to, I don't actually mean everybody was looking forward to, because I was terrified of this moment. Not because it was Max Scherzer, but because it was the bottom of the ninth in a one-run game. Let me ask you this.
Yep.
On a scale of 1 to 100, how surprised were you that Max Scherzer came into this game ahead of Joe Kelly?
1 in 100, probably like a 2.
Okay, so 2%. You were like 98% of the time put Scherzer in, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, especially in that exact spot, because you knew he wanted the ball. He wanted to go out there, and he pitched really, really well in Game 3. So he was ready to go. I had no problem with him going in there. And really, I don't want to see Joe Kelly. I think Joe Kelly has been really good, but I don't want to see him in that situation. If you got to put your trust into Max Scherzer there. However, I will tell you this, Jeff. I have nightmares of Dodgers starting pitchers coming in as relievers at the end of games. So there was that little piece of me that was a little freaked out.
We said before the series, and Daniel and I were, I shouldn't say before the series, before this game, and I said that Scherzer was below Kelly as far as guys that I would trust in that moment. Now, this is one of those irrelevant conversations because, as the announcers pointed out, as soon as Trinan came in the 7th, this thing was scripted. Like, Scherzer was getting the 9th. I mean, I suppose there was some crazy scenario where the Dodgers completely batted around and Jansen could have stayed in for a second inning and maybe they leave that. But this was scripted to get Scherzer in the 9th. And obviously it worked and the Dodgers won. And it goes back to my defense of the move to put Trinan in the 7th. I appreciate that the Dodgers said, we're not thinking about anything else but winning this game. We're not taking anything for granted. We're not going to try and squeeze an extra 3 outs out of a guy that we don't trust 100% just because it's the bottom of the lineup. We're not going to try and get 6 outs from Jansen just because we want to save Scherzer for the NLCS. If that's the number one thing I appreciate is that the Dodgers said, screw it. We're playing this like this is Game 7 of the World Series, and we'll figure the rest of it out next series. We'll figure out Game 1 of the NLCS another day. That's a problem for another time. So I like that about Scherzer. And then, of course, the inning plays out. He gets a quick out, and then the ground ball to Turner. And every Dodger fan, like I can't imagine there's a single Dodger fan that wasn't sick to their stomach because every single one of us in our heads was thinking when Lamont Wade hits a 2-run walk-off home run, Justin Turner is forever going to be the GOAT of this game and this series. And as Vince Scully said, the biggest moment in the biggest rivalry ever. And yet Scherzer gets out of it. He gets a ground ball. And then the check swing. And it's all over from there. The check swing or the not check swing. I got Giant fans in my texts right now telling me this is BS, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? Not responding to any of them. Not responding. There's a big smile on my face, and there's empty messages in my text message. It's a beautiful day. The Dodgers win.
You know that I don't even know what they call it because it's not an emoji, but it's just like the hands going like this when there's like the guy.
Yeah. Oh, the shrug emoji. The shrug emoji.
The shrug. It's not even a shrug emoji, but it's like the whole long one. It's like all the different pieces together. Yeah. You just throw that to him like I don't like. Sorry. Yeah. Too bad. Like there's no too bad, so sad. But at the same time, like what Vince Scully was saying was true. Like we hope that there's not that GOAT, and it was going right towards Justin Turner, and it's sad too. Yeah. Because Justin Turner has been the best Dodger hitters, the most clutch Dodger hitter in franchise history, the most home runs in franchise history, the best postseason hitter in franchise history. And if that would have been one of his legacies, that would have been really, really sad for him. Luckily, it all worked out. And most of the time, how often is there an error in an inning and then it blows up in your face?
Totally. And this one was irrelevant. Like it's like Max Scherzer needed 4 outs. He got all 4 of them. And like it wasn't, the guy never moved in a scoring position. There wasn't like a scary moment at all. It was open and shut. Let me ask you this. We're in the real life moment. We're remembering all of the details. When you look back on this game, what do you think you'll remember the most? Is it the decision by Dave Roberts all the way through? Is it the Cody Bellinger hit? Is it Scherzer closing it out? Where do you remember this game? What's the memorable moment?
I think I'm going to remember 2 things. I'm going to remember the Cody Bellinger hit, and I'm going to remember the Lamont Wade Jr. at bat because I know how freaked out I was. I do think that another part that I'll probably remember is that I was wrong so much of how it all played out. I hated the fact that Brusdar Gatterall came out in the second inning. I thought it was a terrible idea. I thought you had the first inning, you go 2 through 7 or 2 through 6 with Julio Urias, and then you start working through pieces at the end there. And they just couldn't, and they didn't do it. And I said, stop messing around. I don't want to deal with this. It made sense. It made total sense that you had to bring out you got rid of the lefties at the beginning of the game, and they wouldn't come out in the later innings. Totally made sense. I hated it. I hated the move to go to pull Urias after you actually got him in. I hated the fact of the bunt. I hated the fact that they brought in Trinan. All of these things that I just thought were the worst moves, and it was going to screw them over, turned out to be all the exact right moves because they all worked.
Yeah, and again, to be like, just because it works doesn't mean it's the right move. But look, we're not going to complain about moves that work. I guess that's the short version.
Absolutely not.
Right. Looking at the chat, Struggle Chewy says they're going to remember Bellinger's hit. Kathy M, I'm glad that the Dodgers beat the Giants in San Francisco. That's an underrated piece of this, is that they got to celebrate in San Francisco.
That's a really good point, because you know how many times we've watched teams celebrate on our field at Dodger Stadium? I don't want to see that anymore. We got to celebrate on the Giants field at Oracle or Pac Bell or AT&T or whatever the hell they call it.
That check swing is going, I mean, the check swing, that replay, like I'm going to have it saved on loop, and we're going to see it in highlight packages, and I can't wait for it. I freaking can't wait for it.
Sports Center all.
Dodger Chavez Arene, going to remember the way Mookie played. We'll get to that when we get to player of the game. Unbelievable performance from him. Gage West says the Bellinger hit. JJ, I'll remember the bullpen being lights out. I mean, again, I've talked up the bullpen, and they have failed. Never, like, they have not disappointed. They have lived up to the expectation every single time. Absolutely. Corey Seager's double. Jose says that. Ray 2000, the ruckus over Dave using an opener. Laura, the Giants' sad faces. Jason Austin, Max Freezing, Wade Jr. on strike 3 was awesome.
It was great.
Yeah. Lara, the foul ball. Gratterall was great when they put him in. The Wade foul ball. The Wade foul ball. I mean, like, where were you at on that one? Was it like halfway through a wall status, or where were we?
It was very close. My eyes just closed, and I said, "Oh no!" And you just watched it kind of just drift to the right, and you're like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. Patty Madison, you got to give Doc credit for doing the unexpected. Absolutely. Let's see. Laura says the opener and how mad I was is what I'll remember. I'll remember Belly's hit and Scherzer closing it out. Cornbread said. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, where were you at when that Lon Wayne Jr. at bat was going on? I had a weird,
like, it just looked off the bat. It looked like it was one of those moments where I just knew it was foul right from the get-go. And I don't know why. There's no explanation for it. But it just, the way that it came off his bat, it feels like he pulled it a little bit. And so, I mean, look, I'm not claiming any, like, special powers on that one. I just got lucky that I think I was half right on that one. What was it? There was a foul ball. I can't remember if it was in the Cardinals game. O'Neal or somebody hit a foul ball that was fouled by like 3 feet, like late in the game. I mean, that one was more terrifying to me than this one.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like that one, even if he did hit it, it was fair. It didn't look like it was going out. It would have hit off the wall. It probably would have been double. It would have been a close play. You got Mookie's arm there in right field, so it would have been a close play at the plate. But yeah, still, it's the fact that it went foul was still much way nicer than what it could have been.
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to be Scherzer. There's those iconic moments when a starter comes into a game at the end and just, dominates. Like, it was like he got 4 outs, like 4 at bats and 4 outs. And yes, you know, the check swing, non-check swing, we could argue. Worst case, that's 1 and 2. And I don't think any of us are like, oh, Wilmer Flores definitely was about to tie that game up. Like, he probably strikes him out on the next pitch. But again, there's something beautiful about that. And so crazy stuff. Let's get to player of the game, because that's a segment we'll do. So folks in the chat, let us know who you've got for player of the game. I mean, sometimes we do this and there's like a very obvious one person and it's like, oh, cool, we're all just going to say the same name. I think there's a lot of options here, because the guy with the biggest hit kind of didn't really do much besides that. The guy who had the best offensive night wasn't necessarily involved in some of the bigger moments. And then pitching wise, you just sort of have a grab bag. So Greg, I'll go to you first. Player of the game, MVP, however you want to phrase it. Who do you have for this one?
Right. You're so right that everybody has some flaws. There's nobody that was like the perfect guy. Like, oh, this is obvious that Mookie Betts is the MVP of this game, or Cody Bellinger is the MVP of this game, or Julio Urias or Max Scherzer, whoever you want to say is the MVP of this game. I think if I have to choose one of them, though, because it was the game-winning hit, I have to go with Cody Bellinger. Yeah. Because he shortened up on his swing, because he choked up on the bat, because he got through the shift, and because it was the game-winning run, I got to give it to him.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has to be Bellinger. He had the biggest hit in the biggest moment, And again, there's so much that was going on for it to be a 2 strikes. And knowing, again, like who was behind him. I mean, we didn't have a ton of confidence in Chris Taylor necessarily to come through with the hit. We didn't have a ton of confidence in Beatty to come through. I mean, neither of those guys were zeros. It wasn't like Billy McKinney was going up to hit, but there wasn't a lot of confidence in either of the guys behind him to be able to do that. So I think Bellinger's a fair one. We got lots of people saying Mookie. I think Mookie has as close to a flawless because he goes 4 for 4. He steals the base and he scores the first run.
Right.
But so all of that is great, but it just gets lost in the memory when it comes to a 2-1 game and you score the first run.
Right. If it was 1-0, they would have it would have been him.
Yeah.
If they would have won the game 1-0, he did everything. It would have been Mookie Betts. But because it wasn't the game-winning run, and like, who would you have preferred in that spot right after Cody? Then, did you have more faith in Cody or more faith in Taylor, who hit the home run in the wild card game?
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. Yeah, I actually got a text from a friend who knows that I've been critical of Cody all season, who says, do you like Bellinger here? Yeah, exactly. Well, you'd be surprised. We have people in the comments that are like, oh, Jeff, how you feeling about your Bellinger takes now? I'm like, I mean, I'll just play the odds. But yeah, I got a question basically. Do you like Bellinger here? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I mean, like against Doval, a guy who had the velocity, I just felt like Bellinger wasn't going to be afraid of the moment. Bellinger has come through before. Obviously, Taylor has come through before, but I just, again, as crazy as it sounds, because I've made fun of everybody who has talked about the quality of Cody's at-bats and said, now it's about to turn around, I just really thought his last 2 at-bats were quality at-bats. He was fouling off pitches. I know he strikes out in the one before, but I just felt good about it. And maybe I should say there wasn't any other option. Like if there's a lefty on the mound and you said, hey, do you want Pujols here? I probably would have said yes. But with a righty on the mound and my options are Bellinger or like Matt Beatty or, like I don't think they're Austin Barnes. Like definitely, like we had limited options there, and so absolutely, I liked.
If you had one person to choose, like if you would have told me that Albert Pujols was coming up and that he was going to get one of those he was going to get a hit, that's who I would have thought would have done.
Yeah.
It. I mean, it almost seemed like Gabe Kapler was not putting in a lefty because he didn't want to see Albert Pujols 100%. At the end of the game.
And I don't blame him, right? Like there's Pujols would have been the guy you would have been most afraid of. Lots of Bellinger, lots of Mookie. Mark Sang-Hoon Kim says bullpen, which I think is a fair one. I don't know. Does Urias qualify as part of the bullpen in this one? Is it a 9-inning?
He came out of the bullpen.
9-inning bullpen. I mean, I will say this about Dodger pitchers: 9 innings, 6 hits, no walks. They allowed 6 base runners, and we've talked about this. Like Dodger pitching has been unbelievable for the last 3 games. Like going back to Game 3. The Dodger pitching has been unbelievable, lights out. If not for the 1 home run and the offense's complete inability to score in Game 3, we don't even get to this point, and the whole storyline is the pitching. But for them to give up 6 base runners, okay, how about this? The Giants, 0 base runners from the 7th inning on.
Wow.
Treinen perfect, Jansen perfect, and I should say they had a base runner on an error with Scherzer, but they had 3 perfect innings from their last 3 guys. The last hit Urias gave up was the rough home run. So what was that? 3 2/3 of no hit, no walk baseball from the Dodgers. They get 6 strikeouts over that stretch as well. You can't say enough about that group as either.
No. So you're saying go back to Game 3. You can go back to Game 2.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's really not. It was really just Game 1 where they actually were able to get hits. In Game 2, they got a sac fly off of Urias, and that was it. Then they had an RBI single to get their second run, but at that point, you're already down 7-2, 9-2, or 9-1 at that point, whatever it happened to be. And so after that, they gave up nothing.
Yeah.
In Game 2, 2 runs. In Game 3, 1 run. In Game 4, 2 runs. And now in Game 5, 1 run. I mean, they just shut down this Giant offense that was doing it all year long.
Yeah.
The numbers, if you look at the numbers, we talked about it. You talked about it. I've heard you talk about it. The numbers were basically similar all year long.
Yep.
From beginning to end, that the Giants hit more home runs than any other team in baseball. And they only had 2 after Game 1.
Yep. And the Dodgers, I mean, again, the Dodgers win the last 2 games going 3 for 21 with runners in scoring position. They believe they were 1 for 11 last game and 2 for 10 tonight. So leave 7 guys on base. The only other person that I think deserves credit, and it's a guy we've mentioned, it's Dave Roberts. I mean, the decisions, they all worked, right? You could be critical of whatever you want to be critical, but at the end of the day, he chooses to go with the opener. Knebel gives him a scoreless inning. He chooses to go with Gratterall. Gratterall gives up 2 hits, but gets him a scoreless inning. And again, the 2 hits that Gratterall, by the way, the 2 hits that he gave up were a play that Turner probably should have made, although you give him a break because there's a flying. I mean, the slow-mo on Bryant's bat breaking was it Longoria or Bryant?
It was
I think it was Bryant. Unbelievable. I mean, like the shattering of a bat when a 101 mile an hour fastball hits it right on the right spot. That and then Flores, like, so Gratterall, a little bit of bad luck. He gets out of it. So if you told any Dodger fan, hey, you're going to get through the first 2 innings with Knebel and Gratterall and no runs allowed, I think they would say, okay, right decision. Urias,
Great.
oh, how does he pitch? 4 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. He makes 1 mistake to Ruff. Ruff absolutely demolishes it to center. He only allows 3 hard hit balls in 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, 3 base runners. Great. And then you've got the lineup, Treinen, Jansen, Scherzer. Now, Scherzer was the wild card. You probably hoped you could get an extra one from Urias, right? You're probably looking at Knebel, Gratterall, Urias, Treinen, and Jansen. And my guess is they hope they could get 9 from that group. Whether it was can Knebel and Gratterall get you 3 innings between the 2 of them? Can Treinen and Jansen get you 3 innings between the 2 of them? Can Urias get 5? None of those things happen. But credit to Dave because he checked all of those boxes. I mean, from a pinch hitting perspective, there weren't really big moments. A.J. Pollock comes in. He gets a hit. Matt Beatty comes up in a big moment, and you still had Beatty, so that was like credit to him for using Souza early on because Beatty's the guy that you want most in that spot against the righty. So I just thought Dave, and again, when we were going to, Andrew Friedman deserves a lot of credit for the opener decision. I don't know how much in-game stuff he gets to do. I'm guessing not as much, but I think Roberts deserves credit.
They planned that out.
Yeah. I think Bellinger's the MVP for me. I think Mookie Betts and Dave Roberts probably tied for second in my book.
Yeah, and Dave Roberts, you have to give a lot of credit to. Even if we all didn't agree with it, whether I didn't agree with it, you agreed. It seemed like you agreed with a lot of it. It all worked. We talked about it. It all worked. But Andrew Friedman absolutely had that entire thing mapped out. They said we're going to go 1-2 with Knebel and Gratterall, and then you're going to get 5 out of Urias, and then we're going to go Treinen, and then we're going to go Jansen. If anything happens, Urias is going to go 4, and then we're going to go Treinen, and then we're going to go Jansen, and then we're going to go Scherzer. Yeah. They had it mapped out. They knew all the way along. They planned for everything. So yes, you have to give them credit. They knew what was going on. The moves were so weird that you have to think that it was thought of beforehand.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, somebody was questioning like, oh, Gratterall here, this isn't what they planned. And I'm like, I mean, it makes a ton of sense for them to have tried to get 2 innings out of the bullpen. So I didn't understand people questioning, again, maybe they hoped they could get more than 3 outs from Knebel. He didn't look perfect, so they go there. But one other MVP here, the umpire down the first base line gets an MVP. I also have Cooper in here says, no team deserves to lose like that besides maybe the Astros. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh, yeah, no, they deserve to lose in the worst possible ways. Like, it's absolutely. And by the way, Doug Eddings is probably get a little bit too, because he was giving a lot of strikes that were absolutely balls. He lived up to his billing of not being a consistent umpire.
And I think the Dodgers got the benefit. I think the Dodgers got the benefit.
When it comes out tomorrow with the umpire scorecards that come out the next day, I guarantee you it will say like +1 or like it'll be higher for the Dodgers. Yeah. It'll be shaded towards the Dodgers because all of those pitches that were on the outside corner, they were just giving them to him over and over and over again.
Well, and I had a Giants friend texting me. I think there was a 3-1 count to Bryant early in the game where ball 4 was
he was so mad.
And it would have been first and second with nobody out. And those are the calls where I've said, like, not every missed ball and strike call is created equal, because the difference between what ends up being a runner on first with 1 out versus runners on first and second with nobody out, like the run expectancy of those two is a massive, massive difference. And so a brutal call, strike 2, obviously he has to get back in there and ends up striking out. But those are the types of things where I just think the Dodgers got the benefit of the doubt. Now, the flip side is how many bloop singles and like ground ball singles did the Giants seem to get early on? So
over and over.
I think that kind of stuff all evened itself out. Again, the Flores call is a terrible call. We both agree on that, but I think we also both agree that we're not expecting Wilmer Flores then with his next pitch to like make a game changing. It wasn't Buster Posey. It wasn't Brandon Crawford up there. And so there we go. Well, let's get to
Buster Posey scares the hell out of me, by the way. Every time he was up, I was like, just pitch around him, man. Just pitch around him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we got a little bit of time left. Let's get to some questions. If people have some questions, again, we could talk Dave Roberts. We could talk Mookie Betts. We could talk Cody Bellinger and what the expectations for him are coming up. Just looking at the box score real quick as we put those in the chat. Mookie Betts, 4 for 4 with a steal and a run. He hits .450 for the series. .455 on base percentage with a .600 slugging percentage. So unbelievable stuff from Mookie. Corey Seager, 1 for 4 with an RBI. Trey Turner, 0 for 4. He hits .136 with 0 walks in the series. Go ahead.
Can we just talk about that for just a little quick second? Yeah. I love Trey Turner, and he's thankfully he'll be back next year. we don't know what's going to happen to Corey Seager, but what Corey Seager does is he gets those clutch hits.
Yep.
He may have struck out late in the game, but he got that first run in with an RBI double.
Yep.
And those are the types of things that he does throughout the postseason. He did it all last year. Maybe it was by the home run ball last year, but this year, I mean, he still is that guy in the postseason. I have more trust in him than I do than Trey Turner right now.
Yeah.
Trey has not looked good in this series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, losing, how do you feel about that? Because we could possibly lose Corey Seager next year, and everyone's like, oh, no, Trey will be great. Trey will be great. I agree. He will be. But we're going to miss having Corey Seager in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, the best case scenario that every greedy Dodger fan wants is like, let's just have both. Like, let's just.
Why not both?
Exactly. No, but I do think it's a great point that with Trey Turner, he's got something to prove in this NLCS, because I do think there's a number of Dodger fans, Daniel and I have said, who I think have kind of come around on the idea of investing in Trey Turner long-term over Corey Seager, because you get to keep him for a year. You don't have to pay him right away. I think the longevity is a little bit easier to map out with Trey Turner. The health has been a lot better, probably profiles better defensively at shortstop long-term if Corey Seager's not willing to go to third base, all these types of things. But I do think the X factor here is there just seem to be some guys you can trust in the playoffs and some guys you can't. And they said it. Trey Turner, historically in the postseason, I think they was like 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position in his postseason career. Yeah. So I think he's got good news for him. He's got a whole other series up ahead of him to improve. Because I do feel like it doesn't feel like at least he's not swinging and missing. He's not like looking at pitches right down the middle. He's not whiffing on pitches that it seems like he should hit. It seems like he's close. He did have the big double early in the series. So I agree with you completely that I think the narrative about Corey Seager and Trey Turner is going to shift. Now, Seager was not great. 238 batting average, 273 on base, 333 slug. But to your credit, he hits 238. But guess what? In Game 5, he has the double that puts them ahead 1-0 and knocks in a run. So I think Seager has that working in his favor, and I think Trey Turner needs to be worried about that. The other Turner, Justin Turner, 1 for 20 in this series. We talked a little bit before the series, before the game, about whether Justin Turner should have been moved down in the lineup. They decide not to move him down in the lineup. He comes up in a couple big spots, cannot come through. What are you seeing with Turner? Because it just feels, even when he hits the ball to the second baseman, it felt off to me. It didn't feel like solid contact, intentional.
No. So what I'm seeing from him is basically what most people thought was going to happen to him throughout this year. He came out and, hit 27 home runs, and he was getting some big hits and was playing really well. But you thought that he was getting a little bit older and that he didn't have the power that he was getting. His bat was slowing down, all of these things. And that's what it kind of looks like right now. He is missing pitches that he normally he ropes, whether it's for a single or a double, or maybe he'll hit it out. But for the most part, he gets bat on ball on those pitches, and he's just putting them behind him. Yeah. He's just missing these pitches. He's late on them, or he's just a little bit early. There's something going on where he's just slow. And I don't know. Hopefully that changes, because he has changed that a ton in the past. Yeah. But, he is starting to get a little, and that's something that you could possibly see with the idea of Corey Seager moving over to third base and having Gavin Lux at second and Trey Turner at short, is if something happens where the DH moves over to the National League, which is apparently supposed to be coming soon, then all of a sudden you get Justin Turner in the DH spot. It makes it a little bit easier. And then you kind of let him, because his defense too is a little bit suspect at times.
The big error.
You trust him over there. For the most part, but he still has those. Yeah. He's not the same third baseman he used to be.
Yeah. Let's get to some questions. Jacob Marquez, how do you guys feel about Dodgers versus Braves? I'll say really quickly, I think the Dodgers and Giants were clearly the two best teams. And so having beat the Giants, I think the Dodgers are better than the Braves. They will not have home field advantage because of the wild card. They're playing on the road the entirety of this. They go into Game 1, not in an ideal situation from a pitching perspective. And yet I like the Dodgers in this series.
Yeah, I love the Dodgers in this series. I think out of every other team that was in there, I guess would only be the Brewers. They were the most beatable of all of them. And we saw them last year. Freddie Freeman is terrifying. He absolutely terrifying. But I think the rest of it, because they don't have Ronald Acuna Jr., because they don't have Marcell Ozuna, because of all the things that are going on there, it just seems like they're a more beatable team.
Yeah, I agree with you. Lauren Yamaguchi, Scherzer starting on Saturday. Would you feel good about that, or do you think he needs a little bit more rest? This would have been a normal bullpen day for him.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that this would have been a normal bullpen day. Now, it wasn't the bullpen.
There's nothing normal about stressful.
This. Yeah, right. But yes, I am okay with still pitching Scherzer in that situation. Maybe it's not for as many innings. Like, you don't let him go 120 pitches. and you just let him see if he's a little bit wild or he's using a lot of pitch count and he only goes 4, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's game 1. You kind of just ease him in because you know you're going to get him on full rest in the next game. So yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Are you?
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting because I'm a Gonsolin guy, and so I don't hate the idea of throwing Gonsolin in game 1. I know that's like a minority opinion. I just think if you
like your bunt
totally, I got a lot of them. They're all coming out tonight. Yeah, I think that the bullpen game option is not a terrible one, given how good I think the Dodgers bullpen game is. And again, NLCS game 1 is on Saturday. Game 2 would be on Sunday. So I'm trying to think of how that would stack up as far as who would be available to start game 2.
Game 2 is you would probably still go Buehler.
Buehler would be on normal rest.
Yeah, he'd be on normal rest. So you go Buehler, then it goes back to Urias, and then you're back to Scherzer.
Okay.
He should be everything should work itself out. You probably throw Gonsolin in one of those games, though.
Yeah.
Whether it's game 3 or game 4, you probably end up throwing Gonsolin.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then I think I would do Scherzer, because if you've got Buehler on normal rest for game 2 and Urias on normal rest for game 3, and you can get Scherzer, pitch him in game 1 and game 5. Then, yeah, I think he's the type of guy that says, let me just go and we'll figure out what it looks like from there. I said, not to be a Debbie Downer, I said I'm slightly concerned about Buehler's next start. I think I wasn't worried about the short rest start this past one. I was worried about how the lingering impact of what that might do for his next start. So we'll see. But I think if you can get Scherzer to game 1 and Buehler and then Urias in game 2 and 3, I think you feel good about it, even if it's not a full strength Scherzer.
Right.
Go ahead.
So and you got to remember too that it's a 2-3-2 format in the NLCS. So they're still going to have. So you're going to have to see Gonsolin in there because you're not going to be able to work it out with those 3 pitches, with having the 3 back and forth.
Yeah, or David Price. But I think we both agree you'd prefer Gonsolin to David Price.
Yeah, absolutely prefer Gonsolin. I would have gone Gonsolin if the Dodgers would have won game 3. I would have gone Gonsolin in game 4.
Yeah. Agreed. Jason, quick question. Who do the Dodgers need to get their act together more, Justin Turner or Trey Turner? If you could pick one of those guys to get it going, who would you take?
Trey Turner. Yeah. He's in the 3 spot, and he was the batting champ. And he's a guy that comes up he has power, and he can get regular hits. He's the batting champ.
Yeah.
So yeah, a guy that can get you just singles and doubles, and also hit you a 3-run home run out of nowhere. I need that guy going.
Yeah, and manufacturing runs with his speed, right? Yep. Absolutely agree.
With his speed, being on the base path, having Mookie Betts and Trey Turner on the base paths sometimes at the same time, 2 smart base runners need that.
Yeah, Gilbert, how would you rate Urias' performance today? 4 innings, 3 hits, 5 Ks, no walks, 1 earned run.
I'd probably give it a B+, A-. I mean, he gave up the 1 hit, but besides that, he was really good. Yeah. I would have seen him longer. If he would have gone the 5th inning, I probably would have put in a strong A, but probably A-, B+.
Yeah, I think people are going to forget. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, if you told me he was going to start and do 4 innings of 1-run ball with 5 strikeouts, like, I think we all would have been thrilled. So I think the fact that there was an opener kind of messed that up, and the fact that, like, he gives up the home run when he does and having already taken the lead. But I think he was really, really good tonight. The box score is really, really good. I didn't think he had his best stuff, but you look at the box score and say that's about all you could have hoped for. So I think that's a good situation there. Roger wants to know, this is probably an unpopular question on a night like tonight. Would Trey Turner hit better in the leadoff position? On a night when Mookie Betts goes 4 for 4, he wants to know if we should take Mookie out of this leadoff pot.
Yeah, absolutely not. Mookie Betts, as he's shown it since he's been a Dodger, he showed it in Boston too.
Yeah.
As a leadoff hitter, he is just a better all-around hitter. He's more comfortable. He is a table setter. And in the playoffs, I forgot who posted it, but he's something. I think it was Jason Stark actually. Mookie Betts is batting like 600 or 400 since being a Dodger. Jeez. In the postseason. It's out of control. And actually, while you're reading those questions and you give your answer, I'm going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one. I leave Mookie up top. He goes 4 for 4 today. He led off 3 different innings with singles. It's everything you want. He steals the base. He scores everything. I'll answer this next one quickly. Cooper, could we see Muncy in the NLCS? The sense I get is that it's doubtful for the NLCS. We'll see when they release the NLCS roster. I would not expect him to be on it. Personally, I think they're like pessimistic but hopeful, if you could be that about the World Series if they were to get there. But I mean, a dislocated elbow is no joke, and not to mention a guy. Then you've got to get some swings and get sort of back in baseball shape, and that kind of thing. So, have you heard anything to make you think that there's a chance Muncy plays in the NLCS?
No, I just wonder if maybe they put him on there. I don't think you can, but maybe they put him on there with the hope that he can be around maybe game 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there. But I don't think you can. I mean, you can be on that taxi squad. Someone get hurt, then you can move him in, kind of deal. But yeah, I would not be surprised if the closest you see him would be in the World Series. And by the way, I saw Jason Stark the tweet that says Mookie in the postseason since he joined the Dodgers. 31 for 96 with a 323 average, 17 runs scored, 8 for 8 as a base stealer. He's a special presence in these games. That just shows you what happens at the top of the lineup if you have Mookie Betts there.
Yeah. LA Music Sound, California. What do you do with David Price if he's healthy? I mean, I assume he's healthy because he's on this roster. I was surprised he made the roster going into a 7-game series. I think it makes more sense to have a guy like that when you need, the 3 games in a row and you might need somebody to eat some innings in one of those games. So, I mean, do you see a role for David Price like in this other than just sort of the mop-up guy in a blowout situation to save arms?
That's exactly what it is. And it's probably in a mop-up situation in a blowout where they're losing, not even in a game where they're winning, because you don't want him giving up hits and runs that are going to get them back into a game. So, yeah, I see that's the only role I see him in. Unfortunately, I love David Price. I actually was really excited when they got him. I thought he could be a big help.
Yeah, me too.
But we've just seen it all year long that he, especially towards the end of the season, he has just not looked like himself. Although he is a big game pitcher in the postseason, we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think he has a role.
Do you think? I mean, I would be surprised if there's any changes whatsoever to the playoff roster. I think Souza is the last bat on the bench. They seem to like him a little bit. He came up with a hit. I mean, I have an irrational confidence of not even confidence, but I'm like, I don't think it's terrible. Like, and whenever Souza comes up, like, it's like, you know what, like. He's better than McKinney. I mean, like, and McKinney we know is not losing his spot. Like he might be in Dave Roberts' extended family. We just don't know about it yet.
Apparently.
The defensive sub, he comes in the 9th inning. It's like perfect. That's the guy I want fielding, trying to dig balls out in the 9th inning of a 1-run game. But I just can't imagine. I mean, we talked to Evan Phillips, a reliever we kind of liked. Whether they want to go with a different lefty, Clevenger might be healthy. That was something Justin Lorber mentioned, or Justin Brule was a lefty. But
Justin Brule.
I would be surprised if they changed the roster, I guess is my point. Are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I can't see who they would bring in. I mean, I would have thought that at some point Victor Gonzalez would find his way back, but he was just so inconsistent this year and just was kind of stuck in AAA. I don't think that he ever comes back up. So, no, I don't know who you could possibly change anything out with. And David Price will probably make the roster again.
Yeah.
And they just got to hope that he pitches well when they do put him in.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple of people asking, do you have any predictions for the NLCS? I'll just say up front, I was so terrified of this game that I had not even started to think about the Braves. I couldn't tell you a whole lot about the Braves. Like, I was just like, do not, for the life of you, get ahead of yourself, Jeff. So I like the Dodgers because I think they're the best team left. But I haven't thought a ton about the Braves. Do you have any wild predictions you want to throw out there, Greg?
I mean, I need to do more research just like you on the Braves because I was so focused on the Giants all season. In the regular season, I was focused on the Giants because it was back and forth, right there trying to catch them for so long. If I have to make a wild early prediction, I think that they split in Atlanta. And so it's a 1-1 series coming back. And then I think they take 2 of 3, probably Dodgers in 6.
Okay. Dodgers in 6. Yeah. I think the way that they're going into this makes me like less confidence that it will be done quickly. Obviously the Dodgers fell down 3-1 last year, so we know they're not going to take this thing lightly. I think the Giants series gives them some confidence. And the Braves, I mean, they're going to be familiar with a lot of those starting pitchers because they saw them last year. So I like the Dodgers. I mean, I always joke. It's like 7 feels too long. 4 or 5 feels like you're too hopeful and too optimistic. So 6, I think I'll agree with you. I'll go Dodgers in 6. But then it's like,
we will see.
Go ahead.
You will see. We will see Will Smith versus Will Smith at some point.
That's true. That's
going to happen. He's the closer for the Braves. So we got Will Smith versus Will Smith to look forward to.
The announcers are just going to lose their mind.
Oh, God. All the different Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all that stuff is going to be all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to find some post-game quotes. So give me a second here to see if we could get through some Dave Roberts quotes and whatnot. Do you have anything?
Sure. No, I had a Gavin Lux quote, and I wanted to say that he said that he sent. Oh, it says here it is. I sent Cody Bellinger a GIF last night of Kobe throwing an alley-oop to Shaq. I said, "That's me to you tomorrow night."
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That was also the 24th game. I'm not a big numerology guy, but that was also the 24th game that the Dodgers and Giants played. 24, Kobe. Just saying.
Absolutely, crazy stuff there. Yeah, I can't find any quotes. So there we go. Okay, people asking about Danny Duffy. I think he's hurt. I think he's done for the year. Like, I don't think we're going to see Danny Duffy, but
that would be such a weird place to bring Danny Duffy and be like, oh, hey, you haven't pitched at all this year. Do you want to come pitch in the postseason in the NLCS?
Yeah, here's the Ederico asking the question we're all afraid to ask. Will Jock Peterson be a big factor in the NLCS?
Jocktober is a real thing. I think he will absolutely be a big factor. He knows this team. He knows most of the pitchers. Maybe not Scherzer, but he knows Buehler. He knows Urias. He knows all. He will be a factor, and I'm terrified of Jock Peterson because of what he does in the postseason. You know it.
Yeah.
Jocktober is real.
Yeah, and he might be the reason that maybe you get another lefty that you trust on the roster. I mean, that's the type of thing where, you know, Freddie Freeman's a lefty, so some of those guys, that might be the reason that you go away from a David Price and go bring in a Clevenger or a Brule, because maybe there's some more favorable left-handed matchups. Those are the types of things I haven't looked into yet. But he's the perfect example of a guy that against a righty, you're terrified. Against a lefty, you feel pretty good about things. THP says 5 years ago today, Kershaw closed out the NLDS in 2016. Yep. Scherzer does it today. Absolutely beautiful. Cool stuff. Cool stuff there. Ellie got it. This is in the chat, so she beat us to it a little bit, but she said, does Will Smith homer off of Will Smith again? Do you want to make any Will Smith off of Will Smith predictions?
I would love to see another Will Smith off of Will Smith home run. Will Smith owns Will Smith, obviously.
Yeah. Let's see. Some other stuff. Yeah, some quotes. Still champs. That's kind of a catchphrase that I used at the beginning, and it's true. I kept being afraid that at some point I was going to have to stop saying that. Today, my friends, is not that day.
That is not that day.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Jock Love in the chat. That'll be a bittersweet thing. We all love Jock Peterson. He's wearing the pearls, so it's good stuff there.
Well, think about this. If we could possibly see Jock Peterson NLCS beat Jock Peterson, go into the World Series, and have to face Alex Verdugo and Kike Hernandez.
Yep.
You want to talk about bittersweet? That is just a road of bittersweetness the whole way through.
Yeah, as long as it's not the Astros in the World Series. I mean, it's going to be basically a lose-lose because they're going to have to face
2017 or 2018.
Yeah, exactly. Darren Ruff, some quotes from him. It's funny how it all comes down to those two events. Darren Ruff on the 2 check swings heard around the world. That's from the Dodger Blue account. So, yeah, I mean, they're aware of it. I think Kapler had a quote basically saying, hey, there were a lot of other things that happened. That wasn't why we lost. It wasn't the check swing call. Logan Webb, this won't be the last time we play them in the playoffs. So quote from him there. But yeah, I mean, and there is, by the way, the Cody Bellinger quote that I was referring to. It is out there. I'm not going to say it out loud, but let's just say Cody Bellinger made an inappropriate comment that I'm sure will get aggregated. And yeah.
Now I want to know what it is. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was. He said some things about how Logan Webb was taking care of the Dodgers, and you know, it's just like not a totally. I don't think it's like the type of thing that's going to get him canceled. It's not really a politically correct thing to say. We'll give some people some fun things to Google there. If someone wants to throw it in the chat, you're more than welcome to. I will just not be saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Greg, we're just crossed the hour mark. I mean, are there anything we're missing here? Any last words you want to say about this one? I'm wired. I'm freaking wired right now.
Yeah, no, I'm completely wired too. I don't know how I'm going to fall asleep. I gotta be back at work at 8:00 in the morning. So I don't know how that's all going to happen, but it was a fantastic game. I mean, that was just a thrilling overall game. Even if you're a Giants fan, you have to know that was a really exciting game. Yep. If it went the other way, it still would have been a crazy exciting game. Yeah. So I loved it. Back to the NLCS, hopefully back to the World Series. Let's go. And it was really fun being with you too, Jeff, in the pregame and in the postgame. So happy to do it another time if you need, But otherwise, this was a great time.
Awesome. Well, we'll end with this. Los Angeles Dodgers 32 minutes ago with the tweet of the night. This is just a walk-off if I've ever seen a walk-off. If you say beat LA, you better beat LA. And then a picture of the team celebrating circled up in the middle of the field. If you say beat LA, you better beat LA. There's no better way to end it on that. That's Greg Bergman. Greg, we will have you back at some point. It was great having you. Thanks for hopping in for the pregame, for the postgame. We'll do this again soon. And that's the good news. We got more games ahead. Dodgers play the Braves Saturday night, I believe, is game 1 of the NLCS. So stay tuned. We'll have all sorts of coverage leading up to that. But folks joining us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, we appreciate you. Check out Dodger Blue 1958 on social media. YouTube will have all the post-game coverage. There will probably be videos of shirtless Max Scherzer on there. I can't make promises about that. We might have some drunk Walker Buehler tweets in our Dodger Blue feed if you want to follow that. So good stuff ahead. That's Greg. I'm Jeff. We appreciate y'all for joining us. We'll leave with the words of Vince Scully because, hey, the Dodgers are still champs.
The best team holding a trophy high in the air. The Los Angeles Dodgers, champions of the baseball world.